with a couple of people waiting. So if you're on YouTube, we'll be starting in a minute or so as we get everybody in. I'll just see what's occurs. Right. Teaching live grammar. There we go. Zoom. Right, we all ready?
Yep.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to Teaching Live Grammar Week 2. It's a grey day up here in Lancaster, so hopefully things are a little bit brighter where you are. How are you today, Pi?
Very well. We've had a return. Well, because it's so cold and it's so wet, we've had a return of Gerald the mouse, and he's back in the kitchen. He's been seen wandering in the sitting room. He doesn't, as you know, he doesn't run. He just ambles along as if it's his own private domain. So Gerald the mouse is in there, and
I think you don't know, Pi has this regular visitor called a mouse called Gerald, who comes into your house from time to time, doesn't he, Pi?
Does. He's a field mouse, so he lives outside. He's not a house mouse. He lives outside, but when it gets really cold and wet, he comes in and he sits literally right by the cooker, which is on this time of year all the time. So he snuggles in and he just sits there looking at you. So I've got a campaign going for Save Gerald the Mouse, because my wife's all for calling in the rat man from the council who come and set traps and kill him or capturing him. But I quite like him. So save Gerald the mouse. That's what's going on here. How are you, David?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, all good. Everything seems to be working well, which is great. For those of you who are new to Pi likes to name things. Obviously, we get that in the writing anyway, but tell us a few things you've named. You named strange things as well, Pi. So, like trousers and
Yes,
things.
I had a pair of trousers called Kevin. I had a suitcase called Connie.
Did you have a car? Did you name a car once?
Yeah, that was called Goat's Milk.
Goat's milk.
Goat's Milk. Yes. My mother.
Why?
My mother used to keep goats, and I don't know why, but I was often transporting goats in the back of my car, or large vats of goat's milk. So it ended up being, it was a little Austin, little A30, very old car. Do you remember those cars that had sort of wing mirrors that flipped out? Orange wing mirrors.
Yes.
The
indicators. The indicators.
indicators, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Children will have no idea what you're talking about, Pi.
Absolutely no idea. Anyway, it was called goat's milk. So I quite like the idea of naming plants and chairs and objects and bits of items of, favorite clothes. Give it a name. Wearing a pair of socks called Frank and Billy, or whatever it's going to be. I like the idea. Why not? Why not? There's no rule against it, and it's fun. So anyway,
my next question. Well, just a very quick question. Would you talk to them then?
Oh, yes. You have to hold conversations with them. Yes.
So Pi is not at all bonkers, children. No, not bonkers at all.
No, not at all. To me, it makes good plain sense, and I'm sticking by it. I think it's a bit of fun. Perhaps we should crack on with some grammar. So we were looking at the basics of sentences last week. So to have a sentence, sentences are about something and something happens. So you've got basically your noun and your verb. Pi laughs. And then you've got what are called the modifiers, which slightly change the noun and the verb, which are the adverb and the adjective. So that's your basics of the sentences. And this week we're going to go into some other very basic ones as well. Getting a little bit more difficult. Prepositions, positional words. Upon, above, below. That's how I remember it. Preposition, right? I'm into positions of things. Determiners, a little bit more tricky. They determine something. I'll come to that in a minute. And pronouns, they obviously are words that stand instead of nouns. So the horse laughed. If you're going to use a pronoun, you replace the word horse with it. So you'd say it laughed. So pronoun stands instead of a noun. Okay, so we're going to play the game. The first game is the Elf on the Shelf game. And in order to play this, we need the list of, from the teaching notes, John, of prepositions. Now, basically, David and I are going to bounce this backwards and forwards. Where would you place the elf? I mean, you've got to use a preposition. So you might say, I would place the elf above an oak tree. Where would you place the elf? And we just bounce it backwards and forwards. I give them a list there of, John will have to shrink it a little bit, but you've got a list there, John, of the prepositions. There it is. And I'm given a tip. Try to make the places sound special by naming them. So it's not, I would place the elf inside a palace. It's, I would place the elf inside King Arthur's palace. And you could even add a bit more, on top of his fridge, or underneath his throne, which is the special chair that a king might sit on. I would place the elf, and then you choose out a preposition, a position word, and then you say where you would place it. So I'll start us off. I would place the elf, and I'm literally going to go in order first of all, above, now I'm thinking of a good idea, I would place the elf above the Eiffel Tower. And now David says, I would place the elf, and he goes for another idea.
So I would place the elf between Elvis Presley's guitar and Taylor Swift's cowboy boots.
Now, as you know, I am what is known as a Swiftie.
Oh.
It's my one modern thing I know about. I think she's a genius writer. Anyway, let's not get into that. I would place the elf against the front right wheel of Lewis Hamilton's most successful car.
Oof. Okay, I would place the elf behind a two-way mirror.
Ooh. I would place the elf below. I'm just thinking of Donald Trump here. Below, I think he has a wig. I would place the elf below Donald Trump's wig and just above his head.
Okay, I would place the elf among Mr. Clark's class in Chorley.
I would place the elf outside Long Parish Primary School, but inside a wheelie bin. So I got two in that one. I think it's quite a straightforward one, this, John. It's quite fun. And we're just getting at, by saying the sentences, we're just getting the feel for prepositions of place. So where you position something.
And you can see that here are some underneath the examples, you've got a list of a whole load of prepositions that you can use for your I would place the elf. So I'm going to start the timer off. Now, this timer behaved a bit oddly this morning, didn't count down properly. So I'm also going to set a timer on my phone just in case the timer goes weird again. So 4 minutes on the clock. I'll put the list of prepositions back up. I would place the elf. And where would you place it? What preposition are you going to use? And come up with some creative ideas. Right, 4 minutes starting now. And so this is how bad it's got. The timer is still showing 2 minutes 45 left, but the I can tell you that my phone timer has run to its 4 minutes. So we'll bring the game to an end, and I'll investigate why that's happening. We're having all kinds of interesting technical issues today. We'll go to the TeachingLive website, and we'll go to today's grammar session. The button's right at the end of the green bar across the top. And we'll go to Padlet activity number 1. Over to you, Pi.
Ah, I'll tell you why there's a silence, because I think somebody has put in repeated the activity. Can you try Padlet 2 and show me what's on that?
Yes.
If you see what I mean.
Let's go and have a look at Padlet 2.
Ah, determiners. That's what I was expecting to see. Okay, David, you might want to quickly have a look at the notes, the teaching notes, and what's supposed to be on the Padlets. Anyway, I'll introduce this one. This should have been Padlet 1. That's why there was a pause there. Okay, so determiners. Now, most people, John, are familiar with the idea of preposition, the position of things, and we need a set of words to help us. If you were, for instance, looking for something, you'd need me to say it's a book. I'd say it's on the chair over there. So it's sort of positioning where it is so you can go and find it. Very useful group of words. Now, determiners, these are little words that they're often small words, but they are ones which determine who or what something the sentence is about. And sometimes they tell us how much or how many. Now, I've given a list of them, of possible ones. There are more. If you look at the first challenge, I've missed the determiners out. Now, all you've got to do when you write your sentences on the Padlet, all you've got to do is copy out the sentence exactly as it is. I don't want any adverbs. I don't want any adjectives. I don't want anything else other than this sentence. And you're going to add in some determiners. And I've left a space for where you'll need a determiner. So that first one, something morning. So I'm going to go for this morning. You couldn't say both morning because it would have to be both mornings. I'm going to go for this morning. Could have been every morning, but I'm going for this morning. This morning, now, something cat. So it could be this cat or that cat. It could be this cat or that cat over there, or a cat or the cat, or even our cat will scratch. Now we're going to determine whose leg it is. Your leg, or my leg, or her leg, or his leg. So the full sentence for this could be, this morning, that cat will scratch your leg. Now the second one, I'll do the second one as well, John, and then we've got 4 left, which are, got 2 or 3 spaces. So the second one, dolphins swim. Now, I couldn't say a dolphin swim. That wouldn't make sense. The dolphins swim, yes. Those dolphins swim. Some dolphins swim. All dolphins swim. So I'm going to go for all dolphins swim. So what you've got to do is, on the Padlet, you're going to write cat, Sutton, mat, and you're going to decide which determiner goes in each space. So there's lots of different possibilities there, John. A cat sat on the mat. This cat sat on that mat. Lots of possibilities there.
Okay, we'll go on to Padlet 2.
Right, John, just to keep things in order, I have edited Padlet 1 now, so children can go to Padlet 1 and I'll update now as we go.
Okay, so we'll go to Padlet 1.
It's got the determiner game on it.
Yeah, so Padlet 1.
Doing Padlet 2 now.
Can you unfreeze the Padlet, please, David?
Which is pronouns.
And we need the...
yeah, I'll get that on now.
The sentences on there as well.
He's all of a befuddle this morning, John.
Yeah, we've had all sorts going on today.
Yep.
That has made things tricky.
Well, I can see that we got about 100 computers on the go at the moment, John. Obviously, teachers have copied the notes in. Everyone should have them in front of them anyway. So yours is cat on mat. So which cat and which mat? And it's in singular, not plural. It's not cats and mats.
So
it's something cat.
your cat.
Your cat, that determines whose cat it is.
Sat on my mat.
And that determines whose mat it is. You've got to remember, have the capital letter and full stop, John, because you've got to make sure it's grammar. It's got to be precise. So we're underway.
David.
It's as simple as that, folks. We don't need anything added in or anything fancy. It's just focus on the determiners. So you've got to focus on them to get a feel for their job. This morning, the cat
scratched my leg. Yeah, that works. Well done, Tyler.
You didn't need this morning, really, but my cat sat on their mat. Now, Ellie, that's interesting. Have a look at the spelling of their mat.
You need to put this morning in, Pi, because there's a gap.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh, is you're right. This morning.
Yeah, this morning. Your cat sat on. Oh, that's mine. My cat sat on their mat. Right. Ellie, Lancaster Road. That's the wrong there. It's THEIR. The there that's belonging. There, and there. There's three theirs. And it's the THEIR one. Many dolphins swim. Okay, Harry, I would love to meet a dolphin that doesn't swim. It will probably be a dead dolphin.
Thank you, John. The dead dolphin.
The dead dolphin did not swim.
No, it didn't.
This morning, the cat will scratch your leg. Yeah, this morning, the black cat. So we don't need the
adjective in there.
Adjective in there, Tommy. Just the cat sat on the mat, which is the obvious one. Myra, the cat sat on a mat. My cat is under the table. Is that one that we've got?
I don't think it is.
Look at. So let's have a look at the last two, the longer ones there. See if we can. All dolphins swim tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. Yes, that works. The white cat sat on my mat. All dolphins swim. I like my hair. I like my hat and her coat. I like my hat and her coat. Yeah. And that works as well, does David's dog.
Well done, Lucas. Scratch its leg. I'm pleased to see you didn't put an apostrophe in with its, because that would make it is leg.
Bradley, yours doesn't make sense. Bradley from Fairburn.
What, this morning my cat will leg? No. That doesn't make sense.
So let's have a go at the last couple. We've all got good at dolphins. It's very simple. And cats and mats.
The point about the dolphins one is they all swim, John. So it's
yes.
The thing with grammar is you've got to get the grammar right, but you've also got to think about the meaning.
Yes. The sense is also important.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not grammar. That cat will scratch her leg.
I've had enough of cats and legs, if I'm honest, Pi. I want to see some of the other sentences.
Yeah, I'm a bit bored of cats and dolphins as well. Are we getting those capital letters and full stops, David?
Look to be.
Yeah, a few full stops missing, but they're coming through thick and fast. I'm just trying to locate ones that you're looking for now.
Ben and Ava, look at the burglar stealing those watches. Well done. The soldiers ran on to that as their tanks appeared. Right, Elliot, Trelong Parish. The soldiers ran on to that. What was the original sentence? Ran on to ran on to that as their tanks appeared. There is the wrong there again, Elliot. It's THEIR.
That's a tricky one, the soldiers one.
Yes, it is. Those soldiers ran onto here as those tanks appeared. Yeah, that works. These soldiers, sorry, not those soldiers. What of Felix? Look at the burglar stealing those watches. The children ran into that man. Is that one we've got? It's a made-up one. I like his hat and that coat. Yeah, that works. Okay, we'll come out of the Padlet and we'll go on to, so is Padlet 2 now the correct details, David?
I've just been dealing with that Padlet. Hang on a second. You might just need
well,
a
let's go. Let's go. We can come back to that one. We'll go on to the PowerPoint while you're sorting out the second Padlet. So that will work fine, won't it, Pi?
Yep.
Okay, so the basics of sentences, Pi. Take it away.
All right. So this is all about thinking when you're asked to say what sort of word it is the thing to do is to think about its function in the sentence. By that I mean its job in the sentence. So if we look at a word like he lay under the carpet, and I say, well, what sort of word is under? You'll be thinking, okay, under is telling us where. It's a positional word. It's a preposition. So you're thinking about what job does it do in the sentence? And that's quite important, John, because lots of words can have different jobs. So if I said the word green, what sort of word is green? The first thing that comes into most people's head is it's a color. There was a green dog. So it's an adjective because it's modifying the word dog. It's telling us the color of the dog. It's describing it. But of course, golfers, they play not on a field, they play on a thing called the green. So in that case, the green, where golfers play, a golfer will say, I'm going off to play on the green. And that's, it's called that because it is green, but it is a noun. And we know it's a noun because you can say the green that they play on. And actually, people who are interested in ecology also use it as a verb. They talk about greening the countryside or greening the city landscape, which means making sure there are plenty of green spaces. So words in themselves can fulfill different jobs in sentences. So here we got our friend, the preposition, which shows the position of something or someone above the palace, below the sea. They can also show direction. We went towards the shop. It's a sort of positioning word, I suppose, that one. And they also can show time or even cause. So if you look at the last one, and this is the sort of tricky one that you're going to get in a test of some sort, before their lunch. So it's not exactly a physical position, but it's a time position. After lunch, and that word after we have eaten, that word after would be a preposition of time. The children were with their friends, and that with is also a preposition. But my guess is in a test, you'd probably be given a preposition of time, because most people don't know those. The most common are before, after, and during. During the lesson or in the lesson. Those are prepositions. So that's the little tricky bit with preposition, is the time one, John.
Yeah. Okay. So
common prepositions are given a list of them there, worth writing sentences out. Have a go, bit of fun writing sentences out using those, getting used to a feel of how they work in sentences. They're very good for describing settings. And I give an example there. So get your main character into a place. He stepped into the shop. And then look around in your imagination. On the ceiling hung several clocks. Against the counter stood an old umbrella. In the corner, there were 2 jars of sweets. Tucked between a bookcase was a stuffed owl. So often used in describing settings, very, very handy little group of words. Would be worth having those prepositions listed in your English book somewhere or other, and I've done some work with them. Okay, we all know that nouns name things or ideas. Common ones are the everyday ones like dog and cat, and then your proper ones, which we've mentioned before and often mentioned in our work online, in TeachingLive. That's where you've got a particular person or place, months or days. So they must have a capital letter. So John Sutton has to have a capital letter. He lives in Lancaster, which is a place. That has to have a capital letter. And we also do them on days of the week and months. James, sorry, John.
An interesting thing, Pi, this is always confuses me a lot, this, because in other languages, days and months are sometimes not capitalized at all. So it's confusing for me. So, because I'm learning Spanish, and in Spanish, you do names and places, but not days and months.
Yeah,
it's a difficult one to remember.
It's an odd tradition, isn't it? And again, I think it's worth having at the back of your English book or something just a little note when we use capital letters, obviously at the beginning of sentences, but also the special names for people, places, months, and days. And just work on that one so that you absolutely know it and you can do it. Once you've got it, it's simple.
Yeah.
Now, plurals, you've got singular and you've got plural. Plural is when they're lots. Single is when there's only one. So that's easy enough to remember. So we got here single means there's one dog, and plural means there's more than one dog, two dogs. That now we get to the apostrophe, John. This is a little bit muddly. So the first one is easy enough, apostrophe for omission. Omission is when you leave something out. So we might say Pi was omitted from the team. That means he was missed out from the team. So again, it's worth, I remember when I was at school, we used to do lists of things like can't, don't, won't, shan't, and you had to write them out without the missing word. So can't is actually can not. Don't is do not. We tend to talk like that. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. When we're writing a bit more formally, we tend to actually say I cannot do it, or I do not want to go there. Now, that one's easy enough, I think. It's the possession one that we get muddled on. So this is where you've got a phrase like the girl's handbag, which actually means this is the handbag that belongs to the girl, the handbag of the girl. And that's the one where it's a bit tricky and you've got to get it in before the S. If it's a plural and you've got lots of girls, the girl's handbag, you put the apostrophe after the plural. That means the handbags that belong to lots of girls. So again, that's one to work at. Quickly revisit every now and then. Watch out for in your writing. Practice changing can't, won't, shan't, don't into their fuller form. Practice with the apostrophes until you absolutely know it and can get. It's just a matter of constant practice, I think, John.
Yeah, that is a one. It's a classic, apostrophes that just has to be learnt.
Yep. Now, our determiners are our pinpoint. That cat sat on this mat. They can determine also how much or how many. Few humans can eat 6 shredded wheat. That's a little bit tricky when they bung a number in. You think, what the heck is that? They're almost like adjectives because they snuggle up to the noun. So they're a bit like an adjective, but they determine who or what or how many or how much. So determiners determine. They're words that pinpoint. That boy pinched those apples from these trees. Now, some of them are possessive. And by that, it means it's to do with ownership. It's a bit like, who's that skinny little thing in The Hobbit? Gollum. My precious. So it's words like my cup, your cup, his cup, her cup, its cup, our cup, their cup. And that's to do with possessing, to do with owning. but they are determiners. They're determining whose it is. So they're pinpointers, those ones. And again, you just got to learn them. Once you've got a feel for it, it's easy enough. So I give them a list of the most common one, or I'll say most common, some pretty common ones there that might be worth using in sentences just to get a feel for it, to practice it. Yeah, as I say, they're like a special sort of adjective. They help you tell the reader what you're talking about. That dragon ate her burger. Pronouns. Now, these are the ones that stand instead of nouns. So if we've got a sentence, Boris is eating Boris's donut, we could, that sounds a bit odd because we repeated Boris twice. We don't really need to do that. So we could say Boris is eating his donut. And you can see that the word his is taking the place of the noun Boris's. Or we could even say he's eating it. And I've given a list of pronouns there. And one tricky thing is you can see that some of those can also be determiners. So the word that can be a pronoun, but also be a determiner. That's the tricky bit. If you go to the next page, I'll probably try and clarify that. No, I go to possessives. So these are the ownership ones. And they answer the question, whose is it? Mine, yours, hers, its, theirs. The dog belongs to Joe. The dog is hers. So just to round it off, pronouns are useful because you avoid repeating yourself. If you look at the blue sentence, Joe grabbed the burger and Joe ate the burger. After Joe had eaten the burger, Joe went outside. It doesn't work because we keep repeating Joe and we keep repeating the burger. And only a lunatic would talk or write like that. So we can use, instead of the burger, we can say it. Instead of Joe, we can say she. So now we've got Joe grabbed the burger and ate it. After she'd eaten it, she went outside. Of course, after a while of not using the word Joe, we might need to repeat it again, or the reader might forget whose it is.
Yeah, that's a challenge. But you get that if you read your work back to yourself.
Yes, you can do those clumsy repetitions. Little children do it, John, and I think they do it because their writing is slow, so they sort of forget that they've already mentioned the burger. Typically, they do it with names. Peter ran down the lane. Peter went up into the shop. Peter bought a banana, and they keep repeating it, and it sounds odd. And they've got to learn to use a pronoun.
Right.
Anyway, Padlet 2.
Padlet 2.
Yeah, so we're working on the pronouns. So here we go. I've got three different practice ones. The girl grabbed the burger and the girl ate the burger. She grabbed it and she ate it, as well as the Boris one. Now, the instruction is this. This is actually a paragraph. So rewrite the sentences, making them clearer for the reader by using pronouns, or sometimes you can keep Garth and dragon. And we're only looking at Garth and dragon. Garth watched the dragon, watched as the dragon landed with a thump. Now, I don't think you need to, I mean, the reader's got to know it's a dragon. But the second one, he stared. Now, do I go, Garth stared at the dragon? So does it go, Garth watched as the dragon landed with the thump? Garth stared at the dragon. The dragon breathed fire at Garth. Garth hid from the dragon. We got too much repetition. So how are we going to deal with that? So all you do is copy the sentences. I mean, you're going to use the pronouns. Mark you. After a while, you might think, I need to repeat Garth again, or the reader might have forgotten it. So a bit of a tricky one, John. I think, but maybe not.
Well, again, you just the words in red don't change. Just change Garth and the dragon. That's the only bit you're going to change, and then it becomes quite easy. So you could say, if you, I would, in the second last sentence, Garth lifted Garth's sword. I would actually use the word Garth there, Pi, because I've not used it. If I've done all the sentences up to there saying it and he, and I'd repeat it. So Garth lifted his sword.
Absolutely. And I might say, I might follow up that with the dragon shook So I might actually follow that, reminding them of the dragon. But certainly early on, you want to get rid of Garth and dragon as much as you
Can you unfreeze the Padlet, please, David?
It is unfrozen. People are adding.
Oh, says
Just want to refresh the page, possibly.
Okay. Oh, weird.
Yes.
Does that?
Apparently, you're a reliable snail, John.
Absolutely, totally reliable, always.
Garth did her sword. That's interesting because Garth is usually a male name, but I will completely accept Garth lifted her sword.
Yeah,
his sword. That's interesting, John, because it surprised me. Garth lifted her sword.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. It surprised me. I like it.
Garth. So let's see if you can have a go at the whole paragraph rather than just a sentence at a time, everybody.
Look at now, John. Talk us through Felix's, because when you read it aloud, the dragon opened its mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But there's something wrong with it.
Yeah. So it's and it's. So there's a simple rule. The apostrophe in it's stands for it is. So it's because of the missing I. The dragon opened its mouth. So if it's a possessive, the dragon opened its mouth, it doesn't have the apostrophe, Felix. So it's and it's just a rule. It's with an apostrophe is always standing for it is. It's the apostrophe of omission. Now, it's is belonging to. This is where the confusion is, because it's the mouth belonging to the dragon. So clever kids think, oh, that it's because it's belonging, it needs an apostrophe. It's doesn't. It's one of those little rules of grammar that you just have to learn. Isn't that right, Pipe?
Yeah. And again, I think those things make nice little posters, big and bold, up on the wall. If the class keeps forgetting that or needs reminding, and I think it's good to write the rule down somewhere in an English book so that you can refer to it if you're not sure.
Ben and Ava, I'm going to read this one aloud and see at which point you get confused about who I am talking about. Garth watched as the dragon landed with a hump. He stared at it. It breathed fire at him. He hid from it. It opened its mouth. He lifted his sword. It shook its head. So I think you can just about work that one out yourself, but I do wonder when you get to he lifted his sword and it shook its head, is whether you would actually use the name and say Garth lifted his sword and the dragon shook its head, just to remind the reader what it is we're talking about. So Luena and Adela from Trithel have done exactly that. The Garth lifted his sword, the dragon shook its head.
I think it's interesting, John, because Luena and Adela have got it absolutely right. But as a paragraph and a piece of writing, it needs more to it, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean it's not great, is it? Not your writing is not great. It's Pi's paragraph is not great.
Yeah.
It doesn't work well as a piece of writing.
No, it's a terrible piece of writing. It needs more description and flow in it.
Yes.
See that last two sentences, Garth lifted his sword, the dragon shook its head. Those two should have, I think, should have a semicolon between them, because one thing's leading to another, if you see what I mean, and you could snuggle them closely with a semicolon for a start.
You could.
And the real problem is you need to vary the sentence opening. That's what I think. And maybe even create more complex sentences, because They're all simple sentences with one clause. Now I spotted another it's, there it is, on the right-hand side, but we haven't got the person's name. We've got another IT apostrophe, its head. And Mason's done it as well, I think. But luckily, you can go back and edit Mason. And to do that, you click on the top right-hand corner where there are 3 little dots. And there's an edit function, and we love it when people edit. And
Yeah.
Farid from Chorley St James, you've got one as well.
Yeah, it's when it shows possession, never has an apostrophe. It's only when you're using it's as it is. It's one of those rules that you need to remember and learn. Right, we'll come out of the Padlet.
I actually remember, John, at school finding that rule really, really hard to remember, and it would have helped me if we'd either had a little poster on the wall to remind me, or I'd written it in the back of my English book so I could refer to it, because whenever I hit it's, I can remember that slightly panicky feeling of I don't know whether it has an apostrophe or not.
Yes, it's possession, no apostrophe.
Yeah.
It's omission, as in it is, no apostrophe. That has the apostrophe.
Yeah. So somehow you need to have a reminder for yourself. Let's look at Padlet 3. Now, this is a good game to play, and we're playing it because we're sort of summarizing here all the different types of word that we've come up with. And you could do this in pairs or on your own. I've actually done it by passing the piece of paper around the room and folding it. And I think that I put that in the teaching notes, that method. So I'll do it with John. So John, you're going to give me a determiner. I'll then do an adjective. You do a noun. We're going to create a sentence together.
Okay, so I'll start this.
Fragile.
Vase.
Sweated.
What?
It's a sweating vase. Come on. If I could name my trousers Kevin, I can have a sweating vase.
Sweated?
All right, I'll give you stood.
Right, thank you. Stood. Advert. Stood proudly.
On.
My.
Desk. Full stop.
Yeah, okay, that works.
So either on your own or in pairs. Let's get some sentences up.
I'm not having sweated vases. Vases sweating. Okay.
You can have a sweating vase. In my house, that's what they do.
Right. Let's do another one while the children are doing it, Pi.
Yeah, and remember, capital letter full stop. But what we're doing is practicing writing sentences using the word classes that last week and this week we've looked at.
Give me a determiner.
Our.
Green.
You see, I want to say fingers, but that would be unfair to you. Our green biscuits.
Lay.
Lay lazily. It's a lazy biscuit, John.
Lay lazily. What am I doing next? Preposition on.
Is it what is it next?
Pronoun.
Her.
Plate. Yeah, another noun. Yeah, plate. There we go.
Full stop.
We've got quite a few coming through that have things missing. So one of the things I'm thinking to do would be, if you count your words, you probably should have 8 words. Is that right, Pi?
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Her spiteful antics got slowly on my nerves. That's a terrific one, Jacob. Well
Yeah.
done.
I'm loving the spiteful antics.
Yes. That's much better than pie.
Yeah.
Pie sweating vase and my biscuits, green biscuits. The bluebird flew majestically above her house. Davina from Bolton Parish, very good. The bluebird flew quietly above his car. Yeah. The green shoe swung endlessly on the swing. Tristan, don't know what school you're from, Tristan. The blue car sped swiftly past my house. I think we've got to grips with this. The blue paper was passed around the room quickly. You've got that in a different order, Matthew, from Chorley St James. The blue paper was passed quickly around the room. So you've got was passed as you've got a passive noun there. The blue paper passed quickly around the room. The fluffy dog sat proudly in my room.
I like the fact that it's a fluffy dog and not a colour.
Yes. This lazy sloth chewed slowly on his celery. There's something I really like about that sentence.
Yes.
Grace and Humphrey from Trithel. That works. Trithel. That's one I don't know. The doily.
Trithel. I can do Trithel.
Alice, Faith, and Noah. That dirty toilet exploded gracefully on his head.
Come along, be sensible now. That Tommy parachute glided swiftly in his bedroom.
Oh,
Our tasty croissant imploded beautifully under her pool. Tasty croissant imploded.
that's brilliant. I love it. Yes, what a great noun is imploded, Luena and Adele. That's got me giggling. The yellow, I think it means shark, swam angrily under his boat. The blue pigeon flew peacefully above her head. The green dragon flew swiftly through the cave. His yellow car drove recklessly, Ben from Long Parish, RECK, and it's double S, recklessly around my village. Very good. Yeah. Reuben, the yellow car flown fastly around his property. Right. Fast. You can have quickly, but you can't have fastly. It's just one of those odd words that you can't add ly to fast.
And flown is should be.
Why is that, Pi? Why? It's just one of those mysteries of English, isn't it? Because you can have quick and quickly, but you can't have fast and fastly. There is no logic to that at all. Is there a reason why, Pi?
I don't know.
No, I don't know either. The blue dolphin swam swiftly under the waves. The blue bird flew quickly around the building. Yeah, so
you'd have to say fast, flew fast.
Yes.
And that you can't add the ly on, and I don't know why, but you can use it as an adverb. So Ruben would have to say the yellow car flew fast around his property, and that would be right. The lightning fast car zoomed across its track.
Zoomed. No, you've missed out the adverb there, James and Savannah. So zoomed swiftly across its track.
Oh, we got the problem with it.
Got the apostrophe in your its. If we go on about that enough,
what we need in the classrooms, John, is a reminder somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody can check. So if you hit the word it's, you can check it. Which one should it be?
So Jack from CSJ, you've got Chorley St James, the ugly green. So you've used two adjectives, which is fine. The ugly green ogre ate the fish. You've missed out the adverb. Fish. Swiftly, quickly, slowly.
A yellow submarine glided quickly in the bioluminescence. essent waters, full stop.
And you haven't got a pronoun in there. Haiku.
I like the idea though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good. There's some of these sentences have got potential. Right. So that was just using determinate, adjective, noun, verb, adverb, preposition, pronoun, noun, making sure you get all of them in. So,
And actually, John, it's a game that you could look at sentences in books, work out the word class, and create your own grid and play the game with a partner or swap your grids over or whatever. So very different ways of doing it.
yeah, absolutely. It's quite and it's fun one because you can come up with some really, really, really creative and frankly very silly sentences.
Absolutely. Why not? So we're going to the blog challenge now. So the instruction is write 5 pairs of story sentences to show contrast in the setting using the prepositions outside and inside. Look at my examples and check where the commas are used. So basically you've got outside, the snow fell across the silent city. Inside, a fire blazed and the hall was full of laughter. So outside it's very cold, inside it's warm. And notice the comma comes after the prepositional starter. We call those, when they're at the front of the sentences, they are prepositions. They're acting as fronted adverbials. Outside, the rain fell across the beach. Inside, the heat steamed up the cafe's windows. So we've got another contrast there. Outside, a grey mist wound its way through the streets, smothering the houses. Inside, the children warmed their hands over a thin candle flame. Outside the cave, now, because I put in the cave, you've got to, you can't say outside, comma, the cave a dragon paced up and down. It wouldn't work. So you've got to say outside the cave, a dragon paced up and down. Inside, the hobbits huddled. Outside the school, darkness began to close in. Inside the year 6 classroom, Mr. Godber lit the lanterns. So in that last one, you can't say inside, comma, and then the year 6 classroom, Mr. Godber lit the lanterns. It doesn't make sense. So you've got to, it's either if the word outside or inside are on their own, you have the comma after it. But as soon as you say the place, outside the palace, outside the old abandoned church, then you have to have the comma after that bit. So nice little writing technique, John, using a preposition there. Have a go at some pairs of sentences, and really you're checking the grammar, getting that comma right, capital letter, full stop, but also making sure you've got a nice pair of sentences that would fit well into a story.
Okay, so that's good. We like this writing technique, the outside, inside, the contrasting. You can use above and below. You can use, what else could you use? Above and below works as well.
Outside, inside, above and below. You've got to get opposites, haven't you, really?
So here
This
and
side,
there.
that side.
Yes.
Here
Inside.
and there could work as well if you're careful.
Yes. I think it would be interesting if people could come up with some. We can't think of many off the top of our head, but if you can think of some, great. I'd love to see them.
Okay, so that is TeachingLive grammar for this week. Don't forget to put your entries underneath using the form, and we will look forward to reading those, because I think you can. It is a grammar exercise, but you can be quite creative with this one, I think. We want to see some creative sentence writing. So yeah, that's it for TeachingLive grammar this week. We will be back next time for more grammar fun and silly sentences, no doubt. Don't forget the difference between it's and its. So it's it's with a meaning it is, has the apostrophe.
Remission, yeah.
You're missing the I, and it's showing possession belonging to the dog ate its lunch. That is not a omission. It shows belonging, so there is no apostrophe. So it's so easy to get confused. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, but well done, everybody. Next week we're on to phrases and clauses. It's going to get a little harder. Woohoo! Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.